G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're breaking from the usual format and speaking with a subject matter expert on business owner balance and productivity. I'm interviewing James Boardman from the Time Domination Experience community. He's based in Brighton, the UK, and thanks for your time today, James.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on. It's great to see you.
Let's start with how we know each other. So you reached out a few weeks ago on email and thought you might be good for the audience. And I think that the topic we're going to speak on today is very powerful and important. So I really appreciate you getting in touch.
Anytime. Yeah. So we're kind of like on a bit of a mission to try and help business owners. I think touch on a subject that I think a lot of us end up ignoring, right, through the hunt of success. And I think it's, for me, I think it's one of those real foundational pillars that I think we need to nail in order for long-term success to avoid early burnout.
Yep, I agree. And I think productivity and balance go hand in hand in that objective. And also, I think a lot of business owners don't recognize, but particularly outside of business, people that aren't small business owners think it's all glory days, you work 10 hours a week, and they don't really understand the reality of how fucking hard it is and all the stress and everything that goes on. So I think it's really, really important we talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
So tell our audience a bit about your background and experience.
Of course, yeah. So I'm a former military guy. I served under the Royal Marine Commandos for 9 years. And before I did that, I was just a lost young 20-something trying to find my way in life. And I watched a film called Black Hawk Down.
Oh, it's got Eric Bana, the Aussie, you know?
Yeah, fucking brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, great movie.
But before the film come on, there was an advert for the Royal Marines, and it was this young kid running through the fields, going through this tunnel, getting stuck, and then coming out. And I never forget, like, him coming out and sprinting off. And then the next scene is this young, hardened man with camouflage and his green beret on his hat, ready to go off on his mission. And I was like, that's the fucking life I want.
Yeah.
You know, there was my direction. So within 16 months of watching that film, I was like serving. I literally flipped my life around. And at the time, I was actually a store manager for McDonald's. I was running a £6 million store.
Yep.
And it just wasn't fulfilling. It just wasn't. I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. Right, it wasn't the identity, and I could just see me being very unhappy unless I did something about it. So I was looking for a venture risk. So I ended up joining, and then I served 9 years. I specialized as a sniper.
Mm-hmm. I was going to touch on that because that's a big part of Black Hawk Down as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And that was actually one of the inspirations. There's two lads on the helos, and it's when they come off and protect the helicopter and the pilot and stuff. And I was really inspired by that. And I think it's always something I just thought as a kid it'd be really cool to be. And the training is nails. It's fucking really.
I was going to ask about that. It's brutal to get into the special forces. And what's the number? What's the ratio of applications to success?
So in terms of special forces, it's seen as a special force, but not quite the special forces. Yep. So the way that it works in the UK is that you will have the army, and then you have the next level up in terms of first deployments are Royal Marines and paratroopers. And in some respects, they are like special forces. But then you have special forces units, which are the SAS and the SBS that do a lot of stuff you just never hear about.
Yes.
So to give you an idea, when we join the Royal Marines, there's 60 that join a troop, and there are only 6 originals from that actually make it out as an original. Now, we will get people that would join us from troops where they fell before, or people coming out of Hunter, which is where people are injured. It is very, very difficult. As the slogan says, it's 99.9% need not apply.
That's great.
It's brilliant. I love it.
Well, I was going to say there's 2 great things the military or the army marketing department have done really well there. Is that slogan for a start, and secondly, putting ads right before Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, like 100%. And really, really smart. I think the military advertising campaigns over here are pretty good.
Yeah.
I quite like a lot of the stuff they put out, the Marine stuff and the Army stuff. But I mean, I was sold in there, and and it was a tough process to go through, but it changed me and my identity hugely. You know, I was a different person at the end of those 32 weeks. You know, I went from someone with no clue about where I was going and somebody that had struggled with direction in his late teens and early 20s to someone who felt a belonging to something much bigger than just me.
Yep.
And it really created that identity. And, you know, we went on to do the snipering, we went to Afghan. But what I really wanted to be was a physical training instructor. And I managed to get onto a course, do really well, and then get onto my course. And that was an 8-month training, brutal physically. They they reckon that you're in the top 5% of the fittest people in the country when you finish that course.
Wow.
You know,
yeah,
we were burning like 12,000 calories a day. Like, we were big, like, yeah, it's huge. We were having to eat like good 6 to 8 times a day. Can start eating. So very highly conditioned. And then we take recruits through and make sure that they're physically conditioned, mentally, emotionally, and physically for service. And that's my job over 32 weeks, was to do that. And then I finished my career as a sub branch as an adventure training instructor. So I trained up as a mountain leader, a rock climber, a kayaker, canoer, and it was a fucking Gucci job. It was absolutely sweet number. But I left because I had more of a passion to be a dad.
Yeah.
I was sick of the 700 to 900 mile round trips from where I was on deployments, coming home for a day and a half, watching my kids cry in pain as I left on Sunday night because they wanted me to stick around. And, you know, my dad died when I was 6, and I just felt the importance of being present for my kids was important. So I sacrificed, you know, I can't, the only way I can describe my relationship with the military was being in love with someone that you just fall head over heels with, right? And you just, one of those scenarios that you can't stay in there because you're going to have that conflict. And being a dad to me was more of a passion than being in the military. And, you know, they're both up there very high.
Yep.
But that led to my downfall. That was where I fucking crashed and burned big time.
Yep. Was that more from the readjustment of after
life? Yeah, it was nothing that I'd seen or happened. I had a great career. I had a huge identity crisis where I was still Sergeant James Boardman for 3 years. And I was, at the time when I left, I started working in college with like 16 to 19-year-olds. They were little fucking punks. I hate them. I literally, not all of them, there's a bit like, but you know, the mentality, they just didn't realize what they had. They didn't realize the opportunities about their future, the senior management at the college. It was the business. And like, I think there was huge missed opportunities in terms of teaching these kids some valuable life skills. But it was all frustrating. And to give you some context and to shorten the story, within that 3 years, I was divorced, nearly lost my house, nearly committed suicide, and on the brink of literally, you know, pulling a grenade. And just literally, I'd become almost an alcoholic. I was struggling with PTSD. I wasn't a great father, and it all kind of come to the head on the night that I had decided that I was going to take an overdose at the edge of my bed, and was just like, fucking fuck this. And I just had a moment of fucking clarity where I was like, what am I doing? And I just got out of the house, went for this 3-hour walk/run, and just cleared my head. You know, I cried a bit, I laughed a bit, I reflected, and kind of come back and said, all right, I'm going to sort this out. I'm going to do this. And 3 months later, entrepreneurship fell on my doorstep. And that I've never looked back. You know, that was my next chapter.
Yep. And you got the same passion or love for it as what you felt at the military?
Oh yeah, more. Yep. I'd say more. Like,
it can be addictive, can't it?
Like I fucking love it. I love the process, but I haven't always loved the process, and I haven't always loved it. And you know, I knew nothing about business when I first started. When my accountant asked for a P&L sheet, I didn't even understand what he was talking about. I didn't know anything about marketing. But you know, when I had a little side hustle when I left the military, and I run like a little boot camp on 2 days just to earn a little bit. I took a substantial pay cut when I left.
Yeah.
And I was earning about £600 a month from it.
Yeah.
So when I left the college, and I left on bad terms with them, because they tried to get me fired, and I put in a grievance and I won and got a payout. Mm-hmm. And I had no choice but to go all in. And, my outgoings were like 2,500 and I had £600 coming in.
Yeah.
I had to move quick, I had to move real quick and start making some money. So we went from earning £6,000 a year to £106,000 a year in 12 months. And that was through nothing more than listening to people on YouTube, applying what they were saying, and going all in with an aggressive work ethic to save the house and save everything. And through that process, you learn, right? You learn more about yourself. You take a good look in the mirror and you learn.
And I guess you would have had, it sounds like you've got a really strong mental fortitude. I mean, obviously that's a pretty low point, what you've just described there. Is that something in your training early on with the military? Is that like, were there any moments there where you really felt like quitting? Like it was?
Yeah, 100%. And it's what you said is bang on. So a lot of the training that I go through in those 32 weeks of Royal Marine training is you're subjected to consistent beastings, like physically, mentally, and emotionally, trying to break you. Like the job of the training team is to teach you, but it's to wean out the guys that are not ready to go to war. And they have to, because if you go to war and you haven't put somebody at the right level, at the right,
it puts everyone in jeopardy.
Fucking right. You're going to kill someone. You're going to get somebody killed. So you have to be. And there are times when when you have to crawl through mud for 3 miles and it takes 3 hours, or you're getting smashed and you're getting hammered, and all you're thinking about is, why am I doing this? And it's the mentality. I would never have quit because I spent so much of my life dedicated to doing it. I knew it's what I wanted. But the difference between the people that quit and the people that stayed are the people that understood why they wanted to do it. Like the reason why we wanted it. Like I knew that this was what I needed. I needed direction. I wanted that green lid. A lot of the lads that quit didn't have that didn't have that emotional connection to wanting to keep showing up. And I think that's true in everything: personal life, professional life, physical challenges that you set yourself, or whatever it is. It's about having an emotional connection. And I think that's the key to mental fortitude in business and personal life, relationships, health.
I totally agree. And it's like Simon Sinek's why, understanding your why, that is such a critical driver in business and also personal life, understanding why you are on the mission that you are. And obviously Jim Collins also talks about in his books. I'm not sure if you've read any of those, but big on culture and the why of pretty much of your business, what it's all about. So important. Anything else on that, on the background? So might just circle back, pick it up. So basically, within the first 12 months, you went from 6,000 quid a year. You pretty much added about 100,000 quid a year to your top line. With just smarts as well as brute force.
So I think so my first business, which I don't have anymore, was a fitness boot camp. So I just set up this timetable in terms of, these are the sessions I'm going to have. And at the time, there was another boot camp in town, and he was actually, ironically, an old friend, and he was an ex-commando as well. And he had this well-established business, like everybody was going to him. So I was right against it. And whenever anyone's threatened, obviously, it's like a nightmare. So you're trying to build a business, and you still got adversity from other people saying, "Oh, look at this guy trying to build a business." Just natural competition stuff. And that, dealing with that, still dealing with I didn't overnight become better mentally. I'm still struggling with that, still struggling with the divorce, still struggling with not seeing the kids all the time. And in terms of I can't explain, there's a difference between people listening to how to do stuff and listening to advice and then applying it, and then listening to it and saying, "Oh, that's not bad." But when the way that I look at it is that, and I still have this mentality today, the need to have security in my life, like, and my family's life, is huge. And I think it stems from that first year in business, is that, you know, when I started getting the letters, look, you need to make sure you're going to pay your mortgage or you're going to fucking lose the house. And like that, I feel like I'm being chased all the time. And I still today in business, like my attitude to business every time I walk through that office door is that you're a startup. You're a startup. That's my mentality, to avoid complacency, because I got complacent in that, in you know, in the first two, I reckon after about 3-4 years to start getting complacent in business.
Yep.
And it fucking cost me, and it cost me like big time. And so my attitude now is that you're not secure. Doesn't matter what you're making. It doesn't matter how many clients you've got. You're starting with no clients, no followers. That's the way you approach your business. And
yep.
and it become a mad obsession in that first year. You know, suddenly start bringing people in, and you know, I think my energy and my drive and my passion shone through. And I think you were talking about, you know, that book with Jim Scott, was it?
Jim Collins, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Collins, sorry. It's so true. You know, my passion and desire to see people win, but my personal internal passion to provide for my kids.
Yep.
Those two kind of combined for this explosive explosion onto the scene, and we like literally were fucking crushing it. And in 2 to 3 years, we were the dominant like boot camp in the area, you know, and that's what it was about. We were the place where everyone came to, and we just thrived on that. And I thrived on the process. Just in some scope, like we just in shorten on the timeline, we closed that business when we went into lockdown last year in March.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I then started up a separate company called The Man Coach, an online business, because I wanted more freedom. I didn't want to be tied down to the classes anymore. We basically, I kind of fell out of love with the business and kind of outgrew it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
We then started The Man Coach, which was helping men who were in the positions that I was in when I left. So that passion was there to help those men. And then we opened up the Time Domination late last year to help business owners who were also in the position that I was in terms of working with no barriers, not being the asset, completely killing yourself trying to achieve that, you know. And every single business that I've done has come from my own personal pain and experience to then try and grow.
Yep. I wanted to add the importance of balance and the struggles many small business owners go through, yet little see from the outside, as I mentioned earlier. You sent me through a striking list that resonated with me in your email asking to come on the cast about your own business experience you just outlined then. And I just want to run through a few of those points. And for the audience, I too have experienced many of these things, but here are some of the things you listed in that email that you as a business owner, you know, have experienced, and also just in life in general. Pits of insecurity, depression, anxiety, work addiction, obsession with achieving and earning more, burnout, exhaustion, all of which, you know, cost many relationships, and it's certainly affected my delivery and drive to continue to grow the businesses that I was involved with early in my business, you know, career, small business ownership. So I think it's a hugely understudied or talked about area of small business. I'm really glad you're on here today speaking about it. Yeah,
thank you. It's the ugly side of entrepreneurship, isn't it? It's like a lot of stuff nobody really talks about. The mental health implications of running a business, the mental and emotional breakdown of the business, of what happens behind the scenes. I think what a lot of people see is, like, if you do lives and you present yourself in workshops or lives or trainings, they're like, God, this guy is fucking switched. This guy knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
But what you don't see is the tears, is the stress in families, is the breakup of families, is taking that work home, is constantly being on your phone, is neglecting your children, is like the feeling of never being content, nothing ever being good enough, is what my partner said to me. I remember when she threatened to leave me.
Yep.
Nothing is ever good enough for you, James. It doesn't matter if you earned £1 million a year, because then you'd want 2 million, then you'd want 4. You know, where does the buck stop? And that was the real eye opener for me, is like, what do I want from this? what do I want from this?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so you think you've now felt you've got a handle on that now? I certainly suffered what you've just described then early on.
Yeah.
And so it's great you're sharing that with other business owners, particularly with the time domination experience. Maybe do you want to talk a bit about that and the productivity side of all that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the idea of the time domination experience was to help business owners, entrepreneurs be the asset of their business. Now, when you look at anything that's an asset, we look after it, right? We nurture it. We make sure it has a prolonged lifespan. We make sure that it doesn't depreciate. And we look after those things. Now, when we talk about assets, people naturally talk about like their house. So we look after that house, or a car, or what, an asset to somebody is different to every person. But we have essentially are the asset. If we're going to maintain that house or that family environment or that car or that business, we have to make sure that we're functioning in the correct way.
Yep.
And I think that this is where we get it wrong in terms of what we're trying to achieve in our business and our personal life and goals, right? We don't necessarily work on ourselves. We just come in, we firefight. We're on this hamster wheel of doom, doing everything but nothing, killing ourselves with really no direction. And the idea of the time domination experience is to, number one, manage your time and your energy and productivity levels to then be able to provide balance to your personal and professional life.
Yep.
It's to provide more consistency of action. It's to provide, like I said, more control of the time and energy, but it's to gain clarity about where you're going with this. So one of the big tasks I get a lot of my guys to do is a 10-year vision. Not a 10-year goal, but a 10-year vision. So close your eyes, give me your primary vision about where you're going, not just in business. So we work off 4 pillars. We work off business, health, relationships, and personal development. So it's the whole shebang. And I think this is a big problem with business today, is that too many people are focused about, I've got my business goal sorted. I know where I'm going in business. I know I'm going to earn in business. But what about you personally? What are you doing for your health? How are your relationships? What are you doing to personally develop?
I see that. Sorry, James. I see that so much. People are so focused on growing the business or growing wealth or whatever, and they turn around and retire in 20 or 30 years or sell the business, and then turn around and they don't have a relationship with their kids or their partner. Their health is shot, they keel over from a heart attack. It's all that balance, the 4 pillars you've just spoken about right then, and also professional development as well. It's just so integral.
Yeah, I think so. And listen, if you are not growing you cannot grow your business. Like if there's an imbalance here, if your business is growing here, but you're staying all the way down here, like there's that deficit. And that deficit comes in all of the things we spoke about. Like burnout is a direct byproduct of not having a plan. Burnout is being the hamster on the hamster wheel, sprinting as fucking fast as he can and getting nowhere, doing everything.
That was me early on in business career. When I quit PwC, I was working 100-hour weeks when I started 2 internet companies, sleeping under my desk sometimes, just thinking brute force was going to do it, and it's not. That's working hard, not smart. And exhaustion, damage a lot of relationships.
100%. And I was so easily influenced by so many different people out there watching them all, and I was like, I've got to fucking hustle. Like, I love Gary V.
I was going to say, get to Gary V. Gary Vaynerchuk quote. Yeah.
I followed him for that first year of business. He had a huge part to play in me getting my business up and running. But one thing that I've understood in my experience is that he just puts his message out. I interpreted that message how I thought it should be. So I felt that I had to work 14 to 16 hours a day. And my relationship with the content that he was putting out was that I had to work 14, 16 hours a day to be successful. And I misunderstood like what he was trying to say. And that is a big problem. So it's not just Gary Vee. There would be 100 people to say, you've got to work for it. You've got to put it in. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And we get so fucking hooked on that stuff that we don't know if we're coming or going. So the thing that I did was unfollow everyone.
No, it's good. Yeah.
I literally just fucking unfollowed everyone. So I got what I needed in those early years of my business. I got to the point where, like what you were talking about, 100, 120 hours a week, fucking neglecting everything. everything else but business. And I was just like, I just need to have my own thought process. I need to have my own standards, my own values, my own principles in business, my own rules. So I created that. And then I started following people again who I liked. So I like following Gary Vee, but because I had my own concept, my own values, my own thoughts, I could put into perspective what other people were saying.
Yeah.
But not everybody's conditioned that way. Not everyone has that way of thinking, and everyone gets sucked into the fucking I've got to be here till 12 o'clock at night job. Like, you know, your business is not going to close down if you finish at 6 and go and be a dad or a mum and then come back the next day. Like, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And that's why it's so important to have that 10-year vision. Is like, I set mine when I was 40. I set where I wanted to be when I was 50, because when I hit 50, I'm going to be a different chapter of my life. So these are the things that I want to achieve. So I know that when I come in the office and I work the hours that I've set myself, I know that I'm doing today is 1% better than it was yesterday. And it moves me forward that 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% to achieve my 12-week goal, then to achieve my year goal, then to achieve my 3, 5, 7 year checkpoints. And all the time evaluating if I'm still on track.
That's so important, setting the vision. Often, as you said before, people often talk about the goals, but if you don't have those stakes in the ground 10 years out, 5 years, 1 year, then your time and energy and focus fritters away. And it reminds me of a great quote from Socrates: beware the barrenness of a busy life. If you are not focused, if you don't have a laser focus to say in 10 years, this is what my life looks like, it won't change your habits and behavior every day, which is what makes the difference.
Now, I visualize this, right? So I visualize this in the military sense. When we used to do NAVEX exercises, so we used to nav our way from point to point, right?
Yeah.
And I imagine that this is how most business owners will be. You'll be told that head in that direction, okay? And I just want you to keep walking. I just want you to keep walking. So if you can imagine, you start walking through the woods or the desert and you've got no direction, no compass, no end sight. You don't know where the fuck you're going with it. Whereas somebody who has a 10-year vision then has all these checkpoints. It's like having a bearing, and every end of week, you check your bearing to make sure you're in the right direction. End of the day, you check it. End of the 12 weeks, end of the year. And it's always, you've got these reference points where you get your compass out and you just check you're on the right bearing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
To going in the right direction. So there are those two pictures, one where you haven't been told where the end state is, just walk that way and figure it out, and one where you're given reference points with a bearing, with a compass. One is stressful, one is not.
Where's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So the best way to get in touch is on Facebook. It's Time Domination Experience. And Instagram, and then you can just drop me an email at me@boardmanjames.com. So any one of those 3 ways you can do. And we basically run a free 5-day challenge on this stuff. So it's like financially completely free. It just takes a bit of time and energy. And what we do over 5 days is I present a task in the morning. I'm based on self-awareness, priorities, productivity, weekly planning, and daily structure. And then in the evenings, I do like an hour's coaching session on Facebook Live in the group. And it's a real great insight into getting some tips and tricks.
And this is for business owners that feel they don't have balance, or they're not productive, or both, and they're really struggling. They need to find a better way to operate.
100%. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. I've got 2 girls who just joined me. They're sisters, and they've just started up a brand new business. And I mean, they've been in business since January, and they just started off a 5-day challenge process. But anyway, they completely overwhelmed themselves out to the point of, like, when I spoke to them, they're just fucking giving me the 1,000-yard stare because they're ruined mentally and emotionally. Absolutely, just fucking, they're lost and overwhelmed with it all. And I said, look, take Easter off, spend 2 weeks with your daughters and your kids, because they haven't been present. They've been working around them. And I spoke to them, and they said they already feel better. Like, things are becoming clearer. It's about just letting the dust settle, right? So, and then having that vision. It's very difficult, and it kind of leads on to why we have the 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars is health. Underneath the health pillar is mental, emotional, and physical well-being. So that is making sure that we have like a morning routine, and we do some meditation, we do some gratitude, and if you think about exercise, when you do exercise, you do a warm up, and we do the warm up to mentally and physically prepare for the activity ahead. And the morning routine is exactly that. If you walk out that front door and you are clear on what you've got to do, you've connected with your mission, you've moved, you've got your brain moving, you've been active, you've done all of the right things, you're going to be in a much better position to walk through the office door ready to go. Like clarity, control, and consistency. Relationships, it's making sure that you are focusing on the most important relationships. Okay, so it's like immediate family, wife, kids, mum, dad, sisters, brothers, friends. And then you've got your peer relationships. Who are you connecting with? Who are you reaching out with? And it's making sure that you nurture the relationships, because the person that gets it in the neck most of the time when you're a business owner are the kids and your wife or your husband.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're stressed and you're anxious. What do you fucking mean? I'm here working. You know, you can't, like, I've been there. We've all been there. And then the other thing is personal development. We stop self-learning. Like, you know, like we stop, like how, like I try to dedicate 45 minutes 3 times a week, minimum to like watching a video, to looking at other people's point of view. Like I listen to audio. I'm listening to a great book in a minute called from Barack Obama. Absolutely. It's got nothing to do with business, but it's got to do about character. Like I am listening to it because I want to learn about what character and what leadership you need to be the president of the United States of America. And I've listened to 10 hours of it so far, and I can't put it down. It's incredible. So it's about learning about from other people, and that personal development, because if you don't personally develop, you don't grow. You know, you don't have anything new. You don't build your own character and values and principles. And
I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you're not learning, you're old. And it's just so true. It's something I picked up early on, probably 15 years or so ago in business, and I've just made it a habit. I'm probably 2 or 3 hours a week, like yourself, of investing. So I'll go for a walk or a run, not now that I'm on crutches, but, you know, and listen to an audio book or a podcast. And there's, you know, everyone's got time to do it. It's just whether you choose to fit it in.
Yeah, it's habit as well, right? It's literally habit. So it's trying to build up that habit of like and this is where time management comes in, personal management. It's like, when is a good time to learn for me? So like I'm training
courses. Yeah,
100%. It's like I train for 100 miler at the minute. One of the reasons I train for 100 miler is because when I train for that, every other part of my life gets raised. Like, you know, the standard gets raised. So I could be like, I did a 35 miler the other day. It was 6.5 hours. I listened to an audio book for 6 hours. Barack Obama, 6 hours. And it's just like, I know you don't take it all in, but when I listen, I'm not into politics either, but I get the gist of it, and I'm engaged in it, and I'm understanding the mentality, and I get so much from it. And then during my day, I'm like, oh, I can really take a bit of his experience and apply that into here. And then the last one is your business and your career, and it's like how you handle yourself in your business. You know, if I came to look at you and audited got fucking tongue tied there.
Have you seen have you seen the movie Moana? I'm into kids. I love kids cartoon movies, but
no, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's a great one. It's in my top 3. Storks is my number 1 for the audience. But there's a moment there where it's The Rock who plays this character, and he says he's a demigod, and he says, do you want me to smite you? Do you want to be smoten? What is the you don't understand what the film is for.
I am always doing that. I'm always doing that. I think it's my lack of reading that. And it's just about how you look at yourself in your business. If I come and audit you, fuck it, I'm not going to say that word again. What would I see? Would I see like inefficiency? Would you see a good work-life balance? Will I see rules in place? Will I see barriers? Would I still see kill zones? Like kill zones, productivity zones? How would I see your daily structure? If I looked at your journal, would you, it's about how you present yourself in your business, and it's the relationship that your business has in your life. So I'm very much a person that I base my business around my life, not my life around my business. Whereas it used to be the opposite way round. Like I kind of look at this as I'm living my life, and my business is just one part of it. That's it. You know what I mean? Just like my own time is, just like my own family time is, like time with the boys, time on the golf course, time doing jiu-jitsu. It's like all these little blocks. I look at business no different than anything else.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't become the overriding factor, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Do you have any examples of how powerful balance and productivity can be for business?
Oh, well, yeah, blimey, of course. So let me give you an example. Shall I give you an example of one of the challenges that we do in my mastermind?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this was to show how effective you can be and how you can cut out a lot of the time you waste fucking around in your business.
Sorry, can I just stop you on that, or just remember another? Have you heard the Parkinson's law? Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. I mean, it's like, and we do procrastinate a lot, even business owners, I think. Yeah. So, you know, having these productivity and time management habits and structures, you know, I think adds a lot of value.
I think so. And I mean, this particular task that we put in with a lot of guys, really, I give you our procrastination task as well, because I think procrastination comes under the heading of just being a habit, like something we just get into. So the first task that we do is the 20-hour week. So you only have Monday to Friday and you take weekends. How you split your time is totally up to you. So you could do 4 hours a day, or you could do 6 hours on Monday, 4 hours on Tuesday, 2 hours on, however you do it. But you are only allowed to work 20 hours. That's it. So what this does is allows guys to plan in much more detail about and analyze what their priorities are, what needs to be done within this 20 hours. So the guys did the week, and then what we do is keep a worksheet of how much overtime they do. So a lot of the guys were maybe 4, 5, 7 hours just overtime. But what they had actually done was cut a 52-hour week to a 27-hour week. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fucking hell, where are those 20 hours? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and we had cut that process, and we do it now at the end of the last week of every month. We do it. Yeah. And it's constantly keep that in mind. And what all of the guys have started doing is changing the way that they work. So instead of just sitting in the office, checking Facebook, checking Instagram, doing dumb shit that really doesn't like move the needle forwards, it's a case of being super clinical, sniper vision. Come in, priority tasks, close down distractions, focus on the kill zone. The kill zone is, I'll explain the kill zone in a second. Do your kill zone, do your logistics, do your wrap up, do your transition routine, which is like your close down for the day, how you unwind, and then go into dad role, mum role, golf role, buddy role, son role, whatever it is. And that has been hugely effective. The procrastination task is one where how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you are somebody, imagine being in home, if you leave the laundries of baskets out for weeks, if you leave the washing up, I'll do that tomorrow. If you say about your lawn, I'm going to mow that next week, I'll wash the car next week. It's just the way that you think. It's your thought process. So should be no surprise that when you're in the office and you turn around and say, I'll do that podcast next week, I'll do that report next week, I'll get that work done next week. It's that state of mind that's congruent from personal to professional life. Yeah. And it just follows you. So it becomes habit. Whereas the task I set the guys is that if you see something that needs doing like there and then, do the washing up then, put your laundry away right away, get the lawn done every single week. Then you come into the work and you go, right, write my daily email for the day, do my daily live, do this, do that. And suddenly you change the way that you work in habits and routines. And we got the guys doing that. And within 3-4 weeks, they were just like in the habit. They said, I'll just get shit done. I've squashed that thinking about it, and I just do it. Just pull the trigger and it's gone. I
think particularly being a business owner, but you know, you can get addicted to always need to be busy. But if you really stopped and thought about or analyze what you're doing, a lot of the stuff is just low value stuff you don't even need to do, like you were saying before, and you slim it right back to that 20, 25 hours a week.
Yeah, 100%. It's identifying what your £200 an hour job is. Yeah. Like, when you know what your role and responsibility is within your business. So what are my £200 an hour jobs? What do I do that moves the business forwards? That's your roles and responsibilities. Yep. Then all of the £50 an hour jobs or the £10 an hour jobs, they're the things we do a little bit later on. Yeah. When not peak time. So the kill zone, which I mentioned earlier, is when you utilize your peak energy. So when we come to the business, peak energy for me is between 9 a.m. and 12:30. So I would do from 9 till 10:30. That will be deep work session 1. That will be kill zone 1. Half an hour rest, deep session 2. That will then be from 11 till 12:30. That is my prime time to get shit done.
Absolutely.
Like, phones off.
Yep.
No one, don't fucking bother me, anyone. My staff know. You get more done in those 3 hours than most people would do in an 8-hour fuck around day.
Totally agree. It sounds like you've read Cal Newport's Deep Work. I read that a couple of years ago and changed a few things. I'll send it to you after this. Cal Newport. Yeah, it's a lot about working to your best energy levels. I'm now a morning person thanks to my daughter. I never used to be, but so I'll often start work between 6 or 7 in the morning, sometimes earlier, and I just love getting up, crisp morning or a beautiful sunrise, and just work right, whatever deep work I have to get into. But you're absolutely right there. Having those, I use 90-minute sprints. Other use like 20, 30-minute sprints, but having a break, getting back. But as you'll read in Cal Newport's book, the best in the world, say the best orchestras in the world, those musicians that are training every day, the most they can do is about 3.5 hours a day, because it's so intense and they have to get so deep into the work that they're mastering, and there's no more creativity left in them after that. And us professionals or business owners are the same. So you've got to be able to work to your energy levels, but also understand that there's a limit to that every day.
Always. There's always a limit. And this is where burnout, this is where the mental and emotional frying comes in, is once you've gone past that point, like you're trying to work to a high level and you just haven't got it mentally. You've gone, and that's when you need to focus on the £10 an hour jobs. And this is where you then mission comes in, is because you realize you don't need to do all of that deep work. Like if you do like lots of different stuff and you plan ahead and you forward think, you don't have to do all of it in the last minute. It's like university students that do the fucking dissertation all in the last night. You're like,
I've got one of those sayings. I've made up a saying which is called the university assignment mentality, because I certainly did it. I'd leave it to the last fucking night, start it the night before, and put it in. My 4th year at uni, I did a couple of degrees at once, and I learnt this trick at the end, which is start at the day you get the assignment, write the table of contents, do some formatting, just make a start. And then I found myself coming back every day, diving in, doing a few, and I'd hand assignments in a week early, and it was a huge shift.
That's a great example. That is a great example of how to break down a task. 1% a day, every day.
Yeah.
All the time. And that is in theory what we're trying to achieve. When you say it like that, it just makes sense. Like spread it over 3 months, not fucking 3 hours.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growsmallbusiness.com. One thing you think small business owners do really poorly in this area of both balance and productivity?
Ignore it.
Or not aware of it.
It's just self-awareness is like, self-awareness is the key here, is understanding it. And I think if there was an entrepreneurship degree, it's one of the first things. So I'm a big believer that when you build something like your business, you've got to dig down before you build up. And what I often see is people having a lot of success early in business. Okay, so you might get off to a really good start and you start building up your business, but you can only get to a certain point. And if you haven't built the foundations, which are habits, routines, you being the priority, that building starts falling down. Everything starts falling down. And I feel that if you are a brand new business owner, you should be building right now substantial routines, substantial structure, substantial awareness about how you're going to work in that business, and that this is the set in stone. This is the standard that you set yourself, and then you just keep building on that. So you build your business around this little setup that you've got. Don't let it become the driving force in your life.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? You're going to be successful if you keep doing what you're doing and you keep earning and you keep chipping away, because you might think, right, if I'm a startup business, I just want to get to $3,000 a month. Great, let's get to $3,000 a month. Right, I just want $5,000 a month, then I'll be happy.
But it's
Then
addictive. Yeah, unless you've got perspective, it's addictive.
Yeah.
You can keep on that wheel and turn around, like I said earlier, and you've got no relationships.
100%. You could be the richest man in the world, but have no one to share it with.
Yeah.
And I something again that people don't do is, why are you in business? What's the purpose here? What's the goal here? Do you know?
People will say, I'm here to build wealth for my family so we can retire. And as I said earlier, people do retire or cash out and then realize it doesn't mean shit because there is no relationship there. There was a Harvard study started 70 or 80 years ago, the longest study on happiness. I've mentioned this before in the cast. And it boils down to, it's not about money. I think 75 grand a year, maybe it's $60 a year or whatever. Anything above that earning, there's marginal increase in happiness. What the key to happiness is over time is relationships.
Yeah, agree 100%. For me, it's enjoying the whole journey and process about where it takes you is amazing. Is when you meet different people. I mean, like, in what world would you and me have ever met? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we never would have met. Yet we get on really well. We got the same values, same principles, and you times that by 10 by them meeting people in America and people in the UK, and then if we didn't have that. One of the key things and the turning points for me was when my daughter was born, my third kid. She was born in 2017. And when she came along, she was almost like a little miracle, because I remember her lying on my chest going, why am I killing myself trying to build something? This is what it is about. And I turned around and said, I want to live life on my terms.
Yep.
Living life on my terms means like controlling the elements and the parts of that are dominating it, which is the business. Just enjoy the process. This is when you finish. This is when you start. This is when you finish. You don't do any less. You don't do any more. Just fucking take yourself out. Totally. And don't get me wrong. There are some days, guys, that I don't have that perfect mentality with this or overthink this process about what we're talking about, because there will be days when it doesn't happen. When you have shit days. I am fucking super organized, but I will come in some days and it'll be a clusterfuck.
Yep.
But that is then a case of going, do you know what? It's a bad day. Wake up the next day, have a beer, wake up the next day, let's fucking go again. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. My daughter's almost 8 now, and she's certainly added perspective into my life. And again, I read something a few years ago that the bond with a child is greatest grown, before they're 7 or 8, basically. So, in the last, since she came along, I've certainly structured my time and my focus a lot better. So I am present with her. I do school pickups and drop-offs the week she's with me. And it's really, really important to me. It's, my highest goal or value is to have a strong relationship with my daughter. So I think a lot of people miss that. Like I said earlier, focus on the money and the wealth of the business, but you need to find balance. Like you said, those 4 pillars, I really like the way you've described that today.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, and I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old son. And, the first 4 years I pretty much was spent training for war or at war or just away, and I am very I've had to, it's only through working really hard have I stayed close with, my daughter, because she obviously felt aggrieved when I left mum and all of that and everything that went on, but she understands it all, and we have a fantastic relationship. But I can tell you, I would love much more time with her, but I just don't get that with her now, because she's with her friends, she's doing her things, and it's only going to get worse when she goes to college and uni. And I love her to bits, and I cherish every second that I get with her, every second. And then I look at my 3-year-old and think to myself, am I going to stay in the fucking office for 2 extra hours to write an extra email or sales page when I can do it tomorrow? Or am I going to go and connect with that girl? And I'm like, I'm alone. I fucking it's a no-brainer, guys. And if you're listening to this and you're a dad or you're a mum, just you might not know it now, but one day it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you fucking square in the face, and you're going to realize you misplaced your priorities.
Yep. What about professional development resources you'd recommend around this, both balance and productivity? Any good books or podcasts out there?
So there is the book that I read that really changed. The guy who really started helping me was a guy called Craig Ballantyne. He's a Canadian guy, and his book was oh god, I've had a mind fuck. I'll send it to you and you can put it in the links.
Morning
The
routine?
perfect day. No, the perfect day. The perfect day.
Right.
So he does a book called The Perfect Day and the Perfect Week. And then there was another book that changed the game for me, but it was the 12-week year.
Okay.
But they were my first books ever reading on it.
Yep.
I then pretty much kind of then looked at my, so it's great. The thing about professional development and listening and learning from people is then manifesting it into your own world.
Mm-hmm.
So nurturing and molding it into your lifestyle and your beliefs and your principles. I think one of the biggest problems is that when we consume content, we try to follow it exactly.
Yeah.
And the content that we're listening to works for that guy. The stuff I'm talking to you works for me. It sounds like it works for you, but you've got to take the key nuggets and you've got to just take one step at a time and not try and change the world overnight, because that then creates too much overwhelm.
Yeah.
You've got to focus on one thing at a time. So if I gave any advice to anyone, my first thing would be to start a morning routine, develop a morning routine over 4 weeks. Just start with improving how you connect with yourself more in the morning. Great. Second month, let's work on timings. So I want you to figure a time that you're going to start and that you're going to finish. Boom. Let's do like that. So in 2 months, we've established a morning routine where you focus more on yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. Now we've added barriers to your business, personal, work-life balance. Okay. So it's when you start, it's when you finish. And then the third week, I'll probably be more like, right, I want you just to only do 3 things a day that move the needle forwards, the 3x3 model.
Yep.
So by the end of the week, you're going to achieve these 3 things. But during the day, you've got to achieve 3 things in all of the pillars, personal and professional life, that are going to move you a step closer to achieving those things. Keep it super simple. And I think that's really important. And I think when we listen to professional development and those books, I've tried to follow them to the T, and it's caused me stress. I've adjusted it to what I feel works for me, and it's worked well.
Yep.
YouTube and TED Talks are great as well. And there's a lot of people with a lot of good tips and stuff on there, different mentalities.
Yeah, I love TED Talks, but particularly, yeah. Okay, James, we're on our final couple of questions here. What do you think is the hardest thing when it comes to balance and productivity for a small business owner?
I think it's the urge to let go at the end of the day.
We're all a bit of control freaks, aren't we? I mean, that's just in our DNA as a business owner.
Yeah, I think I know that if something's not been put to bed, then it can be really difficult to get that off your mind. I think it's very difficult to switch off.
Yeah, I still struggle with that. It's hard, and especially hanging out with my daughter. If I've got some shit's gone down in one of the businesses I sit on the boards of, it can, before Christmas, I woke up at 4 a.m, furious about something, got up and wrote an email for 2 hours. And, but it's something you've got to continually work on. Yeah,
agreed. I mean, if I introduce for your listeners and guys, what's called the transition routine. So the transition routine, so the morning routine is preparing yourself from personally to get ready for a professional environment. The transition routine is about preparing yourself to step away from the professional scene and to put your personal hat on. Now, the way that we do this is that everybody has a different commute home or a different way to get home.
Yeah.
There's a few principles that I feel that we need to put into place to be able to leave the armor at the door. And that is the purpose of this, leaving the armor at the door. So when you walk through the door, your wife or your husband are not treading on eggshells around you.
Yes.
What mood you're going to be in.
Yep.
Been there. Yeah, it is difficult. So one of the first things is that the end of the day to brain dump everything that's going on in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to extract all of the thought processes and put them down, because I think one of the things we fear is that I'm going to forget what I've written down. I'm going to forget what I said I was going to do. So what we do is provide some thought process, and it just makes us feel lighter, right? The next thing is that I like to listen to something that is non-business related. Yes. So that could be a fictional story, that could be an autobiography, that could be something of interest. And if I'm walking home, getting the train home, driving home, however I'm getting home, in some way, shape or form, I could do that. If I work from home, then I can leave the house for 20 minutes, 30 minutes to be able to do that. Now, depending on how you get home, I do feel like 10 to 15 minutes worth of activity is really great. So if you drive home, before you go through the front door, go for a 15-minute walk.
Around
reflect,
the block.
Yeah, around the block, kind of get all of that energy out of you. Again, you can do, if you're on a train or you before you go in, you could use your journal here and just literally write. So what I write are my happiest moments of the day, biggest distractions and biggest wins.
Yeah.
So again, it's another form of, it's not brain dumping as such. It's more of a reflection. It's more of a review. And what I tend to find is that once I've done all of that, all of this pent up intensity that we have as business owners, all of the like, I'm going to fucking change the world. Tomorrow I'm going to do next fucking Instagram or Facebook. Like we put it all to bed. This whole process is designed to get rid of all of that and just go, hey guys, how we doing? Hey, sweetie, let's, yep, I'll play. I don't have to. As soon as I walk through the door, I've got work phone, personal phone.
Yep.
Personal phone has no social media on it, has like 8 numbers of family and closest friends. So if it rings, I know it's somebody I want to hear from. The work phone goes on airplane mode and it goes in the drawer until the next morning.
Great. That's a really good boundary, James.
Yeah, phone is the biggest distraction. And what you end up seeing is like, yep, I'll just be there in 1 minute. I literally have just got to do this, guys. And then
I've seen so many parents at parks and the kid is tugging their shirt saying, Dad, Dad, Dad. And they're on their phone just tapping away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My 2-year-old, when she was 2, turned around to, we were just on the phones and she turned around and said to Mum, get off your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Literally taking the phone and pulling it down.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it was lovely. So we have a no phone rule in our house now from 5 till 7 when she goes to bed. So phones are away.
Yeah, brilliant.
If you do all of that transition routine, walk through the door and decide to check your Facebook, decide to check your email or your inbox, something triggers you. Yeah. You've undone all of that work.
Again, it's a massive addiction, social media and that wanting to be in contact with people all the time. Yeah, it's a real blight in society at the moment. It's huge.
It's a distraction.
Finally, my favorite question. What is the one thing you would say to a small business owner starting out in their growth journey on their day one?
Good question. Know where you want to be in 10 years. Yep. Like literally if you don't know where you want to be in 10 years, you are going to burn out because you're not working to a plan. You're chasing your own tail. Like, know where you're going. Direction, clarity lead to control and consistency. It's without the plan, you're a lost soldier. You're a lost soldier in the desert with no compass, no bearing about when you want to be. I wrote my first book. Imagine a boat in the middle of the ocean with no sail, no compass, no bearing, nowhere to go, just literally stranded. And that was for the man coach, and that really reflected to me where I was as a man when I left the military. I was that boat in the middle of the ocean with no sail, no direction, no bearing. And what we have to try and do is be in that boat with a sail and with a direction. As soon as we have that, we're moving forwards. We're always moving forwards, right? We're either drifting or we're moving forwards. Without the plan, you're drifting. And that is going to cause probably more mental and emotional torment for you than actually anything else.
Yep, totally agree. I've just come across, looked up two quotes here I think is pertinent. We'll end with one's from J. Willard Marriott from the hotel chain, the founder. Work hard, make every minute on the job count, work fewer hours. Some of us waste half our time. I think that really resonates with the point you made earlier. Yeah. And here's a nice little one, especially for the kids out there. Don't underestimate the value of doing nothing, of just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear and not bothering. Winnie the Pooh.
Love that. Winnie the Pooh's got it made.
Yes. He's got a great outlook on life. Yeah.
He's got a great outlook in life. He's fucking honeypot. But meditation the other day, and it was talking about sometimes we can just take life so fucking seriously, and we really overwhelm ourselves with that. And she was saying, look, just see the funny side of things. Just like, some things we can't, but just don't take everything so seriously.
Yeah.
This whole process of being a business owner is an adventure.
Yep.
You are in a position where, like, you don't have to be at a place at a certain time. You're not restricted to policies and 9 to 5s and regulate. You are your own boss. You are, you're living life in your terms. This is like as amazing. You could just earn 2,000. If you only need to earn £2,000 a month, and you do, and you work 3 hours a day, you're fucking living a dream.
That's
You're
it.
winning.
Yep.
You don't have to be earning millions and millions and millions. Ask yourself, at what point are you ever going to be happy? Because unless you know that answer, like you and me, you'll be tormented.
Yep. You'll never get there. Yeah.
You'll never get there. You got to know where the fucking end destination is here.
Thanks, James, today. That's been a great chat. Really appreciate your time and agree with everything you said today and your experience in both life, military, and also thank you for serving your country and protecting not just your own country but many other countries around the world. So I really appreciate that, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, mate. It's been great. Thanks for having us on.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.